right now, our debt is going up $1 trillion every 100 days. Now, if you want to freak out, and by the way, I'm not trying to scare you here. I'm trying to get you excited because opportunity is freaking coming. And I'm going to tell you, you got to pick your vehicle right now. If it's single family, if it's multifamily, don't do office.
It's got to be real estate, period, end of story.
I agree, or buying businesses. I wish there was another one of me to buy businesses because I think you could really kill it. A lot of aging baby boomers.
What is up, Science Flipping family? I have another incredible guest. Not only is he one of the best commercial multifamily investors in the nation, he has the top-rated podcast for investing. We are going to be talking with Rod Khleif. What is up, brother?
You, man. We're going to have some fun today, brother.
Let's go get it.
It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I think we've circled each other long enough.
Right.
We're both... I like to say the word old heads in the game. I've been around doing this 17 years. How long you been doing this game?
I've got socks that have a decade.
Yeah. But this is going to be good. So if you young cats, the people that are trying to break in, there's going to be a wealth of knowledge. That's why you need to be watching this on YouTube or listening to this on Apple, because between him and me, we have seen, I don't want to say everything because I swear every day I wake up and there's something new, but listen to this, rewind this is going to be great. He has made a lot of money. He's also lost a lot of money. And that's actually where I want this episode to start.
Okay.
Let's talk a little bit about your background.
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to go way back because it'll lend some framework to what we're going to talk about. So I'm a Dutch immigrant. I was born in the Netherlands, wooden shoes, windmills. Immigrated when I was 6 years old with my brother Albert, my mother Zvancha. Ended up in Denver, Colorado. And we really struggled initially. So I remember eating expired food. We shopped at an expired food store. True story. They had that. Drinking powdered milk with our cereal in the morning because it was cheaper than real milk. And trust me, it sounds better than it is. And, wearing clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army all the way through junior high school till I lied about my age when I was 14 at Burger King, got a job flipping burgers so I could buy my own clothes. I'm sure you got listeners that had it harder than I did, but I knew I wanted more. And luckily, my mom had an incredible work ethic. So she babysat kids so we'd have enough money to eat.
Yeah.
And with her babysitting money, with no formal education, she was a bit of an entrepreneur. She invested in the stock market, but she also invested in real estate. And her first real estate acquisition was the house right across the street from me. She bought for about $30,000 when I was 14. And then when I was 17, she told me she'd made $20,000 in her sleep. And this is when $20,000 was a lot of money. And I'm like, what? You made $20,000? You didn't do anything?
Yeah.
Screw college. I'm getting into real estate. So I went and got my real estate broker's license right when I turned 18, which back then you could do with education. I was actually a broker. I could have my own office. They got smart. Now you need some experience to be a broker. But I was still living at home. And my first year I made about $8,000. My second year maybe $10,000. But my third year I made over $100,000, which back in 1980 was some pretty decent change.
Listen, you made a lot of money. I still like $100,000.
Back in 1980, that was a lot of money. So what happened between year 2 and year 3 that caused me to 10x my income? Well, what happened was I met a guy. I was actually working for him he was a broker, and he taught me about the importance of mindset and psychology. And how 80 to 90% of your success in anything is your mindset and psychology. Only 10 to 20% is the real estate stuff we talk about on our podcast. And so fast forward to today, I've owned over 2,000 houses that I've rented long term in 3 states. In 2006, and now I own thousands of apartment units. I pivoted. In 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept.
That's nice.
And I said, wow. And, my head got so big I could barely fit it through a door. And I thought I was a real estate god. And when that happens, the God of the universe will give you a nice little smackdown.
That's right.
That was 2008. I lost $50 million conservatively in 2008 and 2009. And so what I'm known for talking about on my show and at my boot camps and so on and so forth is the mindset it took to have $50 million to lose in the first place. But maybe even more important, the mindset it took to recover from losing it. And it's kind of the same sequence of steps. I'd love to drill down on that with you. I think your peeps would get a lot of value out of it. What I had to do to have it to lose in the first place, but it's the same thing. If someone's listening, they haven't taken action yet. They maybe listen to your show and they know they need to do something with their lives. They're in a rut or a rat race or a W-2 they don't love. You may want to listen to this because I'll give you some strategies that I think will really help you. Not the real estate strategies. I'm talking about the things that you actually freaking take action.
Yeah.
So happy to drill down.
No, I think that's imperative. I think there's too many people out there that are getting lost in YouTube University. Mm-hmm. They're getting lost on podcasts and they don't do anything. They're a professional student, if you will.
Analysis paralysis.
So please, if
right.
you have a
I do, and I'll blow through it pretty quick. But these are really important strategies. So the first thing, like when I lost everything, the first thing I had to do was reassociate with what I wanted. It would have been real easy to focus on what I lost, okay? And it's the same thing when you're getting started. You got to know what it is you want. If you come to one of my boot camps, the first thing we do is goal setting on steroids. So how the hell do you get anything if you don't know what it is?
Yeah.
You got to know what it is you want. And so, it starts with goals. You got to go do your goals. You got to write them down. Don't do them in your head. And if you're in your head, you're dead. You got to write them down. You got to write down why they're imperative to achieve.
Do you want to get inbound motivated sellers calling you and become an authority in your market? Look no further than Tony Javier's 10X TV. Tony has been doing TV commercials to find consistent motivated sellers for over a decade for his business. It is the main reason he has been able to purchase over 1,000 properties. He will use his proven formula to get high quality leads calling you and even setting it up for you. Get in front of 10 times more people, 10 times faster, 10 times cheaper, with 10 times more credibility than any other marketing channel. Surprisingly, TV has little to no competition and can get you a steady flow of motivated seller leads. If you want to see why over 100 real estate investors use Tony to run their TV commercials, go to 10xtv.co to see if there's a spot available in your market. Again, go to 10xtv.co.
And by the way, I do a goal-setting workshop every year. It's on my link tree. That's rodslinks.com. I'm not going to try to sell you anything. Go do your goals because if you haven't done them recently, and if have your spouse do them. If you've got kids that are over 10 years old, have them do it. Mm-hmm. Here's the sad thing, Justin. People spend more time planning a freaking birthday party than they do designing their lives.
That's right.
That's designing your freaking life. And the reason it's so important is because you've got to create what Napoleon Hill calls a burning desire. You got to want it. Hunger. You got to want it. That's how you push through that fear.
Yeah.
That's how you push through that analysis paralysis to go actually freaking take action and change your life and create, the freedom you and your family deserve. So it starts with the goals. The second thing is you've got to make a decision. And I don't mean dip your freaking toe in the water. I don't mean 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I mean it's done. When you make that decision, it's freaking done. The Latin root for the word decision means to cut off, meaning there's no escape. You make that decision. And a great analogy for this would be if you're going to attack the island, you burn your ships because you're taking their damn ships home.
Right.
So it's done.
Yeah.
Okay. So and it could be the biggest decision of your life to maybe take action on your dreams. Yeah. I'd love to at the end of this to talk about what I think's coming. I think there's some I think the proverbial shit's about to hit the fan in this country, and we'll talk about why. I've got some incredible quotes from some very, very smart people and some statistics to share. But the point is, you got to make a decision to get started. You got to decide, okay, enough is enough. If you don't want to be in the same place you are right now 2 years from now, unless you freaking love where you are right now, then you got to make a decision. All right, so the next thing is you got to take the first step. I see it with my students all the time. I'll brag for a minute. My coaching students now own over 200,000 units that we know of. It's more than that because we can't even keep track anymore. And I've only been teaching a little over 5 years. Super proud of that. But you see, I see it with them all the time. It's that law of the first deal, okay? It's that the first one always takes the longest. It's the hardest. It's the scariest. And then they get one, after 6 months, 8 months, whatever. And then they have 3. I'm like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
Because it's all between their head. But you got to take that first step. You got to actually do it. And, so many people, you talked about this, so many people get caught in analysis paralysis. And in my business, I teach multifamily investing. I teach people how to buy apartment complexes. And we get a lot of analytical people. And if you're analytical, I love you. You know who you are, and I love you, and you could be very successful in what I do. But you got to make a move, okay? Most analytical people, they got to check off every single freaking box before they. And you know who you are. And again, I love you, and you're very successful in my business. But let me give you an analogy. If this is you, you can drive all the way across the United States at night, headlight only seeing 50, 60 feet in front of you, and you can make it. Other people have made it before you. Now, you may have some obstacles. It's the same way with any goal that you go after, but you got to take that first step, okay? And the next thing, and here's the thing, so many people, especially analytical, fear failure. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about failure in a minute, but I'm going to tell you fear regret much more. There was this nurse in Australia named Bronnie Ware, and she was a hospice nurse, so she took care of people right before they were about to die. And she asked him a question, Justin, and the question was, do you have any regrets? And she wrote a book about it, something like The 5 Regrets of Dying. But you know what the number one regret was? Not living the life I could have lived, living someone else's life, not doing what I know I'm capable of. I can't think of anything worse than that.
That's right.
Right? So no regrets, guys. Take action, take that first step, and change the trajectory of your life. And so let's talk about fear and limiting beliefs for a minute, because we all have fear. You have fear, I have fear. Most successful people on the planet have fear, but they move through in spite of it.
That's right.
Okay? Limiting beliefs. I'll give you a great example of limiting belief. When I immigrated this country, I didn't speak English and got thrown into school, and I found out what bullies were for the first time, so I got my ass kicked occasionally. And then my mom, proud Dutch woman that she is, thought it'd be a great idea to send me to school in wooden shoes and those leather shorts the Germans wear for Oktoberfest. So another ass kicking, you know. And you know, that coupled with some other things caused me to believe I wasn't good enough. You know, I used to ask myself, how can I show them I'm good enough? Which, of course, presupposed that I wasn't. And a lot of people have these limiting beliefs. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not analytical enough. That's another one of mine. You know, I'm not old enough. I'm not young enough, whatever. See, the thing to remember, if you're consciously aware of one, if you're listening, is there's a reason the acronym for belief systems is BS. Because 99% of them are BS. But see, we believe they're real. And so if you have one of these that you're consciously aware of, sometimes you're not aware of it, but if you're consciously aware of it, drag it out into the daylight. Look at it with your adult rational mind and you'll burn it up. I mean, I used to be afraid to raise my hand in front of 15 kids in class, and I speak in front of thousands of people a year now. And so, you know, you can eliminate a limiting belief, but you got to focus on it consciously, and that's how you get rid of it. The next thing I'll talk about, and this is a few more, the next thing is focus. The most successful people on the planet have the highest degree of focus. And, you know, focus is clarity. Focus is power. You know, I listen to 2 podcasts, okay? I listen to Joe Rogan and I listen to Tim Ferriss. I try to get both sides of the aisle. I'm definitely on the red side of that aisle, but we won't go down that rabbit hole. But on Tim Ferriss's show, he interviews the best of the best in the world, okay? Like the best athletes, Michael Phelps, NFL, NBA players, actors like Ed Norton, Hugh Jackman, Arnold, Jamie Foxx, billionaires like Ray Dalio, heads of the biggest companies in the world like Zuckerberg and Facebook. And he deconstructs their success. Very intelligent conversation and some really cool conversations. And I started to hear a pattern, Justin. They almost all meditate. What does meditation enhance? Focus, right? Focus is critical. And so it's very, very, and here's the other thing. Whatever you focus on gets larger, both positive or negative. You know, like I'll get people call me and say, how do I get out of student loan debt? I'm like, wrong freaking question. How do you make so much money that debt's irrelevant? Right. That's the question you need to ask. And, you know, it's so easy to focus on the negative. We connect through the negative, you know, and, you know, it would have been easy for me to make my identity around losing the $50 million. I use it to teach, but it's not my identity. And you know, because, again, where focus goes, energy flows. It's got to be positive. You know, for example, they asked Mother Teresa if she was anti-war. She said, no, I'm pro-peace.
That's right.
You see the difference? And so the next piece is playing to your strengths. Now, in my space, the multifamily space, it's a team sport. It's not like flipping, you know, as you know, or wholesaling. You can do that yourself. I mean, I bought 2,000 houses basically by myself, one at a time. You know, I had a small team, and my brother helped a little bit. But multifamily is a team sport. You know, they're different, and you're not going to do it alone. You're not going to buy 10, 20, 30, $40 million properties by yourself. It's just not going to happen. Nobody does. And so, you know, there are different hats you can wear. Like one is you could be the person that finds the deals. You could be the analytical person that underwrites the deals. You could be the investor relations person, like you and I on our platforms. We're able to bring money in.
That's right.
Because of our platforms. You could be the the asset manager. Maybe you've got construction experience, project manager experience, whatever, and do asset management. So lots of different hats you can wear. But here's the thing. You want to play to your freaking strengths.
Yeah.
Why? Because when you play to your strengths, you'll love what you're doing. And when you love what you do, work is play. You never work another day in your life, right? And so you're in the zone or the quan, like in Jerry Maguire. You're freaking humming on all cylinders. And when you play to your strengths and you love what you do, you're passionate about it. Yeah. I mean, you can feel my passion. I freaking love talking about this shit. You know, and when you're passion is required to influence people. And in any business, you're going to need to influence people, investors, sales, whatever. And so when you're playing to your strengths, you're in your passion, and you're able to do that. So play to your strengths. Hire, align, or partner for your weaknesses. Don't try to build your weaknesses. And when you get two people that are each playing to their strengths, yin and yang, man, success is inevitable. And I see it on my podcast all the time. I see these guys. There's an analytical person with an outgoing person, and I mean those connections always are successful because you need both. You need both in this business. The next piece is peer group. You know, you've heard the expression, who you hang out with is who you become. You're the sum total of the 3 or 4 people you hang out with. Well, I'm telling you, it's absolutely the truth. And I'll give you a great example story of this. You know, when I was losing everything in 2008 and 2009, I was in Tony Robbins' Platinum Partnership. Okay, it's a mastermind. And back then, there were only about 60, 70 people in it. There's like a few hundred in there now. But I was around people that were killing it in the crash. They had prepared for it. They knew it was coming. And I'm going to give you information today to tell you I believe it's coming too, definitely in my space, in the apartment space. Maybe not in the houses because there's a huge shortage of houses, but definitely in my space. But so these people were killing it. And they're like, get up, you puss, 50 million, schmillion. And that, I mean, you know, and who do you want to be around when that's right. When the shit's hitting the fan, you want to be around people that hold you up and prop you up and validate you. You know, like in my coaching program, you know, you want to be around people, and that's like I talked about those 200,000 units. Those are all done between my warriors, my coaching students, and so you know, you want to be around people like that, people that aren't going to hold you back, you know, because everybody's got fear and limiting beliefs, and maybe they'll hold you back because they're afraid of losing you, or hold you back because they're afraid of feeling less than if you succeed, or they've got their own fears. And sometimes it's family. You know, and so many people will default to like peers that they went to school with or peers that they work with. And again, those people may not have your best interest at heart. So, and if it's family, love your family, but choose your freaking peers proactively, right? Super important. So because they will absolutely traject your life up or down depending on, you know, on what their feelings are, motivations are, and fears are. The last really big piece is failure. And I will tell you, you know, I call them seminars, okay? That was a $50 million seminar. It was an expensive freaking seminar, but it was a seminar. Because it's only a failure if you don't get up, you don't get the lessons, you know? I believe we fail our way to success. And, you know, I've built, I was staggered when I counted this a couple years ago. I've built 28 businesses now. Several were tens of millions of dollars. I got 3 right now that are. Most, however, were spectacular flaming seminars.
That's right.
Okay?
That's right.
You know, I got to meet the billionaire owner of Spanx, Sarah Blakely. You know, guys, that's the stuff that holds stuff together for the women under the clothes. And beautiful human being, started with $5,000 and now she's a billionaire. And I met her at her mastermind, and she told me that her dad used to ask her and her brother almost on a weekly basis, what have you failed at this week? And I thought, what an awesome freaking question to ask your kids so they don't fear failure, you know? Because there really is no failure. I mean, you know, you get your butt back up and you start all over again. That's how it works. So
the only thing I would tell you, I have 5 laws of success that you really kind of encompassed in what you'd maybe call yours.
These were all emulated from other things.
I think the only thing I would add to it, if I had to add anything, is the expectation of timing on the result you're trying to achieve.
It's measuring the goal.
People want it now.
Yeah.
And then they come to your program, my program, anyone, right? And they say, oh, I'm coaching with Rod. I'm coaching with Justin. I'm going to go buy my first multi. I'm going to go get my first deal in 30 days, whatever it is.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And then they don't. And what happens mindset-wise?
They feel like they failed. Yeah.
They quit. They check, Rod, this doesn't work. Justin, this doesn't work. Oh, the market. And then the excuses. But if you don't ever put an expectation on the timing of your result, you just say, I'm going to go buy 100 doors. A full stop, meaning as fast as I can, then you'll never give up because you didn't say within 60 days or 90 days of working with Rod.
Well, I will tell you, you know, I agree with what you just said. And if you've got clear enough drive from your goals, from your whys, and you associate with those daily and you live in those and you trigger what's called your reticular activating system. I'm sure you know what that is. It's that filter that points you in the direction that your brain thinks you're interested in. Greatest example is when you first buy a car. You never really notice them. You buy the car, they were everywhere. They were there before. It's the same thing with your goals. But when you've got a strong enough why and you create that burning desire, you know, the timing isn't gonna stop you. It's the ultimate goal that you're after
because it's authentic, right?
That's
so
right.
Back to your decide what you want, because I say the same thing. Yeah. My number one rule, and I don't know if there was any like format in yours, is decide what you want. It's the number one rule. but it has to be authentic is what you're talking about.
Well, it has to be believable in your own brain too. I'm going to be a billionaire. Yeah, okay. All right, fine. Okay, but you've got to believe it. You've got to so that's another piece of this,
For sure.
right? I mean, you can't have unrealistic timelines. I'm going to be a billionaire in 2 years. No.
That's the timeline
right.
part, right?
So that's the timeline piece, and the goals you have to believe they're attainable.
That's right.
Okay? And so that's a critical piece as well. And I'll add one other thing. You've got to incorporate gratitude. And I know this is going to sound foofy, but stay with me here, guys. Okay,
real. I'm with it.
Gratitude is the most powerful emotion we have available to us. It strengthens our immune system. It lowers our blood pressure, brings us closer to our spirituality, and it's how you manifest freaking thing you want in your life. I will tell you, most mornings I will sit in my recliner, and I've got my vision boards next to me, and I'll just do gratitude for the people that I love in my life, my students, my foundation. And then I'll do gratitude for the things that I want as if I already have them, okay? Yeah. And sometimes I'll get emotional being grateful for things I don't even have yet.
That's right.
And I know I lost some of you analytical ones on that one. This is how I had $50 million to lose and how I got it back. So ignore it at your peril is all I will tell you, because it freaking works.
Yeah.
So, but... and
let's talk about that. I think you brought it up now, and I don't know if you were ready to talk about it.
What?
Let's talk about how do you make it? How do you lose it? How do you get it back? I think that's what everyone wants to know.
It's the same sequence that I just gave. I had to reassociate with my goals. I had to make a decision to pick myself up, crawl underneath from the rock I was hiding under, and go after it again.
Yeah, because you felt beaten down.
Then I had to take that first step towards commercial, because when I lost everything, I was renting. Can you cut this out?
Yeah.
I just said cut this out because I don't want to slam single family, because I was going to slam single family. No, that's your wheelhouse, so I'm going to leave it alone.
No, by the way, you can't. I'm not going to be combative. That's fine.
Oh, well, I just don't want to.
We can cut it out no matter what. But.
Okay, well, I'll say it, and you can decide if you want to leave it in or not.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So when I was losing everything, it was my houses that pulled me down. I had 800 houses. Yeah. And, houses don't cash flow as well as multifamily. They just don't. You have a house that's empty, you're 100% vacant. And if you've got to renovate it, $3,000 to $5,000 typically minimum to turn it around, you're going to lose a couple months rent. You could lose the cash flow for 18 months.
Whole year,
yeah. And so
economies of scale, 100%.
That's it. And so my multifamily pulled back about 11%, but it would have survived if I hadn't, if I hadn't cross-collateralized my apartment. I had several apartment complexes that I cross-collateralized with packages of houses.
Yeah.
The houses are what pulled me down.
Yeah.
And so I'll give you, people always ask, well, you were over-leveraged. I was at a 30% loan-to-value when I lost everything, and I still crashed and burned. So let me tell you what happened. I had houses 2 hours north of me, 2 hours south of me, and everywhere in between along the Gulf Coast of Florida. Okay, from like Spring Hill down to Bonita Springs, with Tampa, Sarasota, Fort Myers, all that in between. And if I had a maintenance issue, well, first of all, the taxes here, property taxes here in Florida are higher because there's no state income tax.
That's right.
So they have to make up more tax. I had properties in wind and flood zones, higher insurance. Both those things impact cash flow. Okay.
Of course.
Okay. But what killed me was the maintenance. I had mostly C-class houses, older properties, tougher demographic, tougher tenant demographic. Sure. They're harder on the properties, tons of maintenance. If I send a maintenance guy to one of my apartment complexes, everything's the same. So we can stockpile parts, plumbing parts, appliance parts, window locks, door locks, electrical, anything that's, you can stockpile those parts. They're in and out in an hour, maintenance guy. If I had to send a maintenance guy to one of my houses that's an hour and a half one way, they got to go see what's wrong. They got to, every house is different. Then they got to go to a Home Depot or a Lowe's where we have an account. And I don't know if this is the case with you, but when Rod's happy ass tries to fix something, he goes to Home Depot more than once. And so, these maintenance guys are there all day on one house. And that's what killed me. So I never really cash flowed well at all, even at 30% loan to value. Now, you want to hear something crazy? By the end of 2009, my portfolio was upside down. It had dropped more than 70% in 2009. Yeah.
Florida got hit that bad?
I
know
Florida,
I was in Phoenix.
Florida, Vegas, Phoenix, California got crushed.
That's
70%, more than 70% drop in value.
I didn't know that about Florida. I don't mean Phoenix, Vegas. I knew those two markets.
It died hard. But
so let me ask you another question just regarding that. Did you ever go into Section 8, meaning the tenant?
I had a bunch of Section 8 tenants. I had a bunch of Section 8 tenants.
Did they last longer because it was government subsidized? Or?
Yeah. Actually, I forgot to tell you what the coup de grace was for me. So if somebody had good credit and they paid a deposit, I let them rent. And I didn't pay that much attention to where they worked or tenant demographic. After it all crashed, I discovered that most of them were contractors, plumbers, electricians, drywallers, painters, roofers, which fell off a freaking cliff in 2008. They didn't have any work. So as it relates to Section 8, when it hit, I didn't have any Section 8. I had done that in Denver. I had 500 houses in Denver and had Section 8 there. It's some really tough D-class properties. People killed, crack, you name it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Section 8 back then was a lot different. They could
now.
screw you around. They could destroy the place and stay in the program. Now they can't do that anymore. And I'm a big proponent for Section 8 now. In fact, one of my complexes in Atlanta that I'm taking over is really struggling. I don't own it, but I'm getting involved to help these people out. And we're bringing in Section 8. We're bringing in housing because I believe in it.
And I asked that specifically because I'm going through not the same thing at all, but I'm actually deciding to go heavier on the Section 8 with any of, whether a single family and or like I bought 4 apartments this year, smaller apartments.
Good for you.
But I'm choosing to go Section 8 because they are C-class neighborhoods. Not bad, not crack and deaths and whatever. But part of that is not just the increased rents, but what you went through. I'm
Safety, brother. Yeah.
Because
let me tell you something.
Shit hits the fan, and I know we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Don't you think the Section 8
sure.
we're going to be a lot more insulated
unless the government goes broke, which we can talk about in a minute. But yeah, no, we're already broke, way broke. But well, I'll tell you, wait till you hear how broke. But no, that's really smart, man. Okay. And you know that and I will tell you, I don't buy C-class assets now for that reason.
Right.
Okay. Because you know, I'm recently single, and I didn't have to buy groceries, and I went to the freaking grocery store. And I'm looking at the clerk. I'm like, $150 for that? Are you freaking kidding me? Yeah. I'm like, how do people afford this? She just shook her head. And then, $150 to fill up my truck. There are people who live paycheck to paycheck, and they're that C and D class asset base. Man, it's scary. So I try to I'll buy a C asset in a B area that I can build up, or a B asset in an A area that I can build up. Don't buy D. Ask me how I know.
That's right.
I had properties in Denver where they cut holes in the door to pass the crack through, where they put concrete pilings at the end of the street to slow down.
Is there an F or an E of that grade?
No. There's D minus, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I had people killed in them, behind them, around them. You don't need that brain damage.
I don't want all that.
You'll see the higher cash flow, but the only people that will buy is bottom feeders, and it's not worth it. It'll slow down your acquisition if you buy ED assets. And I'll get people that do it anyway, and you'll regret it. I promise you.
Yep.
But let's talk about, if you're ready, talk about what I think's coming.
Let's do it.
All right. So I'm going to give you some headlines. I got my sheet here so I don't misquote. So the head of Chase, J.P. Morgan Chase, Jamie Dimon. J.P. Morgan Chase, largest bank in the world, with the exception of state-owned Chinese banks. So really probably the largest bank in the world, okay? Here's his headline. The U.S. is driving towards a cliff as debt snowballs. He said, brace yourself for an economic hurricane. Direct quote from him, okay? Guy named Rubini, who was Clinton's senior economist, who predicted 2008-9 crash, warns of a coming greater depression. This is in Fortune magazine. The head of Citibank, his economist named Hollenhorst, told Bloomberg the U.S. economy is headed for a hard landing. Donald Trump says the U.S. economy could reach levels of the Great Depression. This is in Newsweek. Here's the thing. Here's what's crazy. In the last 4 years, in this country, we've created 80% of the currency in existence.
Yeah.
Up to 2020 was 20% of the currency.
Literally made the currency.
We made basically, we printed 80% of the money in the last 4 years. I mean, hello. Why is there inflation? I mean, hello.
Right.
And how do they fix it? I don't think interest rates are going to fix it. Right now, our debt is going up $1 trillion every 100 days. Now, if you want to freak out, and by the way, I'm not trying to scare you here. I'm trying to get you excited because opportunity is freaking coming. And I'm going to tell you, you got to pick your vehicle right now. If it's single family, if it's multifamily, don't do office.
It's got to be real estate, period, end of story.
I agree, or buying businesses. I wish there was another one of me to buy businesses because I think you could really kill it. A lot of aging baby boomers. But certainly retail, industrial, self-storage, any of those asset classes are great. Don't do office. Good God, office is getting killed. But if you really want to be blown away, go on Google and look at an image of $1 billion, $1 million, $1 billion versus $1 trillion. It'll blow your mind. $1 trillion is such a staggering amount of money. It'll blow your mind. And right now we're paying $1 trillion a year in interest on the debt. Okay, that's more than Medicare for the United States. I mean, do you see a problem? Do you see a problem here?
Get out of it.
I don't think there is. And so the piper has got to get paid at some point, And I will tell you, even if it doesn't hit hard, like in the next 12 months, we're still going to see a big crash in my space, which is commercial real estate. Office is at like 65% occupied. Yeah. These assets don't break even unless they're 85% occupied. Right. Multifamily, there's a lot of operators that got adjustable rate debt called bridge debt. It's short term. It's very onerous debt. And they're in deep shit. I'm telling you, there's a ton of them. I just closed on a 200-unit asset in San Antonio, a mile away from a 296 unit that I own, and I got it at a 40% discount. I just closed on it 30 days ago, and 40% discount compared to the one that sold next door. And so it's coming. It's already starting to happen. There are deals coming, and I think we're going to see a ton of them in my space. So again, let me give you a couple other headlines here, actually. And this was actually about 8 months ago. 20 million households are behind on their utility bills. This is in CNN. Okay, Elon Musk, pretty smart guy, yes? Said they're lying to you. The crash will be much bigger than they say. There's a direct quote. Again, should you be worried? No. Get excited. Pick your freaking vehicle.
Right.
If whatever it is, learn it as quick as you can. Do you mind if I mention my virtual boot camp coming up?
Do it.
All right. So I've got a live boot camp in Orlando, Florida coming up November 8th, 9th, and 10th. And if you use the code Justin, you can come for $197. It's 3 days of training and networking for $197. Tell me your excuse. I don't care if you learn from me, but now is the time. Because and by the way, to do that, you go to rodslinks.com or text the word links to 72345. That's my link tree. There's a ton of free resources there, free books, best-in-class books that are free about different aspects of multifamily. My bootcamp site is there. My podcast is there. Use the code Justin when you check out to get that $97 price. It's about 3 times that now. But again, I don't care if you learn from me, but get up to speed right freaking
What
now.
asset is now, we're not all Rod Khleif, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I do own a rather large 584 door
Nice.
property in Houston. It's
Wow.
a syndication, right? So
Yep,
I'm not
of course.
by any means only.
Right.
But the other 4 apartments are all smaller, 30 door, stuff like that.
Good for you, man.
But for the other individuals who might not even have my level of experience, where do they go? What asset class should they be choosing?
Come learn. I mean, even if you're going to invest passively, for God's sakes, don't give your hard-earned money to someone unless you understand the business. And 16 hours with me, you'll have a pretty freaking good understanding. It's drinking through a fire hose, I'm
Yeah.
going to tell you. I mean, and I don't sell anything. It's not a big sale. It's not a sales pitch at all.
Yeah.
I won't even take your credit card. And for $97, I mean, hello, tell me your excuse. But I'll teach you, how to pick a market, how to evaluate a market, how to find deals, how to evaluate those deals, how to raise all the money you need for your deals, how to syndicate, how to joint venture, how to finance, how to manage your properties. When I spend time on mindset, there's a reason my students are so freaking successful, because they actually take action with what they learn.
Yep.
Okay, so, I mean, I will tell you, if you come to my event, it's a Saturday and Sunday, and you can pay a couple extra bucks and get the recordings. But if you come on Monday, if you didn't love it, I'll give you your $97 freaking dollars back. It's never happened. This is the first time for everything. But I don't mean like it. I mean love it. I'll give you your money back.
Let's talk about choosing markets. A question I get all the time.
Let's do it. Let me
How
tell
do
you
I
what
know
you do.
market?
You use 3-4 websites. Write these down. City-data.com is one. Bestplaces.net is another one. datausa.io is another one. And census.gov. And you play in there. You look at the demographics, but you want to see 3 things growing: population, income, and jobs. What's the most important? Jobs. Okay? And so that's how you pick a market. And if you live in California, well, first of all, don't invest in a blue state. It's
There you
not a
go.
political thing.
Agreed.
Life's too freaking short, okay, for those regs, and they're overtaxed, and don't get me started. But if you live in California, don't invest in Boston or vice versa.
Right.
There's enough low-hanging fruit near you, so you don't have to, don't go across the country. That's ridiculous, okay? I would tell you the 4 markets to consider first. The first is your backyard. For me, that's a 2-hour drive in any direction, because you can do it with day travel, okay? So that's option number 1 of the 4. Second option would be somewhere you've lived or spent some time, went to school, whatever. For me, it'd be Denver. I can still name every street across the whole city, because I used to knock on doors of people who are in foreclosure. That's how about 500 houses there. So that for me is Denver. Whatever it is for you, that's option 2. You know that town. Option 3 would be a place you have boots on the ground, friends or family, people that can tell you what's going on. They've got the ear to the ground. They can help you if you need something. That's option 3. Option 4 would be a place you like visiting and might even want to retire. Okay, so those are the 4 options I would consider first, but don't fly all the way across the country.
Yeah.
That's silly.
Especially in the asset class that has a price point, right? So,
But
if you bought a
remember this.
rental-
Sorry to interrupt. Forgive me. Remember this. In my space, you can buy anywhere. I've got assets in 7 states because you can hire great management companies.
right.
You buy small stuff, you can't find the good management companies. Okay, you'll get a
there's
broker
one.
that does it on the side or something. And I've had lots of problems with that. But you buy a large asset. I mean, they're sophisticated operators that manage these things, third-party property management companies.
Back to economies of scale. That's why you're able to go do it.
That's it.
What states do you buy in?
I heard Venus, and I'm in the same ones and a couple of others. I'm in Florida, of course, love fucking Florida, where we're doing this right now. I'm in Georgia. Parts of Atlanta are tough. I've got a really nice asset there. North Carolina, South Carolina. I've got assets in Ohio, but my biggest market is Texas by far. I've got assets in Dallas, San Antonio, Houston, and I've had assets in Louisiana. Won't do that again. I've had assets in, I have one in Nashville. I like Nashville. I don't like the other side of the state. I had bad experience in Memphis. But those are the main ones.
Yeah. It's interesting that there's a lot of, again, this is kind of what you're saying. It's all about economies of scale.
Yeah.
If you buy one single family home in wherever, then you can't get good contractors. You have one home. What's the point?
Yeah, what do they call that? Oh God, where it's all done for you.
Turnkey.
Turnkey. The only person that
sense.
benefits on a turnkey is the one selling you the property.
That's
okay,
right.
and you got no leverage. I can't tell you how many people I've had complain about turnkey because you got no leverage. You got one house. Who cares if they do a shitty job managing it? You have no leverage at all. You got a 200-unit apartment complex. You got some freaking leverage.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. So if you're a newbie, if someone's listening to brand new, do you say go apartment just straight out of the gate?
Very few people do. I mean, I've had people on my, again, I've got people that on my couch in my studio that own 20,000 units, 10,000 units, 5,000, 3,000, 2,000. Almost all start with a house or a duplex.
Do you suggest it just to kind of get their wheels turning, or do you say, guys?
I just say get started. Okay, period.
Yeah.
Whatever you got, you got a courage muscle, right? And whatever you've got the courage to start with, just start.
Sure.
Okay, and because that'll start to get you over the hump. It's like that law of the first deal, because it's the stopgap is on your brain.
Yeah.
Okay, you just got to do it, and when you realize it's not as hard as you think, it's not as intimidating as you think. You hear syndication, you hear $10 million property, you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Well, believe it or not, it's probably easier than buying a house.
Yeah.
But you got to know what to do. Come to my freaking boot camp, okay, and you'll have a great understanding of what to do, and or learn somewhere else, whatever. But once you know it and you educate yourself, then it's not as intimidating.
That's right.
And but again, I think the shit's about to hit the fan, but you got to get up to speed right now, because if you're trying to learn it in the thick of it, you got to have the relationships built up. You've got to understand how to underwrite deals and have looked at a bunch of deals. I'll get people say, should I wait? I'm saying no. You heard about the deal I just closed on. You've got to get to a point where you can sniff if a deal's a good deal, but that takes time.
Yeah.
That's why you got to start now. So
It's the age-old, when was the best time to plant a tree 50 years ago? What's the next best time is today. It's the same thing. And I'm with you. I am agreeing on everything.
Thank you.
And I'll tell you, the thing that I made a mistake in my own career is I didn't take what your advice that you're giving to everyone here listening to this on Apple and watching it on YouTube is you need to be getting into this asset class faster, and or at least buying assets to keep for yourself, because you've done a lot of single family yourself. So I know you're not totally against single family.
No, I'm not. Listen, if they're all in the same general, close area, it's okay.
Sure.
I would not spread out like my dumbass did, where 2 hours in each direction. Yeah, no.
So the point, though, is start that process today. To your point, Rod, is get started today. That is the best strategy.
Right.
So if it's one single family, if it's a fourplex, if it's a 10-door apartment,
whatever
just
it
get
is.
started.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. And start studying it. You may have to kiss 100 frogs, 200 frogs, 300 frogs to find one, but start looking right now.
That's
Start, immerse yourself in it. Wallow in it, for lack of a better word. Use those websites I sent you to study your markets. Get your butt to my boot camp. There's no excuses for $97. Or just learn on YouTube University, whatever, but get started. And so,
what do you think about interest rates and how that's impacting your current business? And then how do you think it's going to be impacting the next 18 months?
That's why we're paying $1 trillion a year in interest right now on the national debt. It's killing the country. It's killing it. And so, but the problem is with inflation, you just heard, we've created 80% of the money in the last 4 years. I don't know how they're going to slow inflation down. And their only mechanisms are quantitative tightening, which is kind of happening a little bit right now because it's harder to get money. And the other one is interest rates. But if, I don't know, people say the interest rate's going to drop. I hope they do, because otherwise I think it's really going to be ugly.
Really hurt.
Yeah. I
tend to agree.
Yeah.
And by the way, drop to me is, 5s and 6s.
Yeah.
Because what I think COVID did terrible for people is it indoctrinated them to reality of a 2.8% loan, which has never been seen before, and in my opinion will never be seen again.
I agree.
But now it gives them this expectation that is so improper about what loans look like, that
what
it's
interest rates look like. I'll tell you something funny. In 1978, when I started in real estate, I was 18, 1978. Interest rates were 18%.
Yeah.
Just to give you some freaking perspective. Yeah. I mean, I remember doing backflips when they hit 7%. I'm like, holy shit, it's 7%.
Right.
But I was buying properties at 18%.
Right.
Because it's all numbers. Our business is empirical. It's numbers.
I get, and listen, I don't mean this disrespectfully. My grandfather says the same thing. He's like, tell all your students to shut the fuck up. Because he was developing. He was developing.
I just flipped him off, by the way, for that
I'll take it.
grandfather. That's funny.
But he's like, people don't get it.
Yeah.
They genuinely don't.
No, they don't. They, and the sad reality is even if they do, they forget. You know? I mean, don't get me started on what's happening.
Rod is direct. You guys understand one thing. You need to take the action now. This is the only vehicle that Rod or myself are aware of that can create a tremendous amount of income and build a tremendous amount of net worth and have a life that...
Well, here's the thing.
No
inflation is going to raise everything, including rents.
Yeah.
You buy a place now, even if it's just an okay deal, inflation is going to drive rents up, and income is what drives the value of commercial real estate. And so any increase to the net income is an exponential increase to the value.
That's it.
And so...
And everyone needs a place to live. They forget that. Like,
thank you. And there's a huge shortage.
A huge
disparity between a mortgage payment on a house and what you can rent for. And people can't afford to buy. We've become a renter nation.
I mean, think about all the babies that were born during COVID.
Think about the 17 million people they let across the southern border. People need a place to live.
That's it.
You know, so it's not getting better, it's getting worse. So, our business, renting real estate is going to go nowhere but residential real estate is going to go nowhere up.
I'll tell you guys one thing about Rod. He's been there and he's done that. If there's someone that you can trust, is someone who's been through the war, survived the war, has the scars to prove it, and been able to keep going.
I appreciate that. I'd like to share one quick last story because it ties into goals. So when I lived in Denver, I always knew I wanted to live on the beach. There's no beach in Denver. So I would visualize the palm trees and the surf and the sand of the beach. And 20 years later, I built this, what's now a $25, $30 million mansion on the beach. I owned the beach on one side. I had boats on the back side. It's called a Gulf to Bay. It was like a slice through an island, which was unthinkable when I was 18. But I made it happen, and you can make it happen too. Do these goals and don't limit yourself. Again, go to Rod's Links and do my goal-setting workshop. rodslinks.com. It's at the bottom. There's a guide you can download. And again, I'm not going to try to sell you anything. I don't even think I asked for email addresses. Just go in there and do it. But so 20 years later, I built that house. And 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating in the pool at night. I'm looking, just let me describe it, okay? There's a giant waterfall from the second floor balcony into the pool. You had to walk through the waterfall to get to the pool. It was in magazines, the pool was. Big spiral staircase up through the middle of the house, wine cellar, elevator. I'll land the plane with this. On the second floor, I had aquariums built around the staircase that cost me almost $200,000. So this gives you an idea of the house.
Yeah.
So 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating in the pool at night. I'm looking up at this testament to my ego, which is really what it was. Prove the freaking world I was good enough. Okay, if that didn't do it, I don't know what would. And I got depressed. And I don't mean a little depressed. I mean, I got really depressed. I'm like, what the hell? My family, beautiful family's inside sleeping. I had all the cars, the Maserati and the stupid shit, boats, jet skis, and I'm like, how could I be depressed? And when I look back on it, there were several things happening, and so I want to share with your audience real quick. So number one is, it's never about the goals, and you need them. Happiness comes from progress and growth. Mm-hmm. You got to be progressing and growing, okay? So that's number one. Number two is, you should never achieve a big goal without having other goals lined up behind it. Like the good book says, without a vision, the people perish. You got to have a vision for the future. So that's another one. But the big one for me was, I'd been totally focused on me. Rod. Show the world I'm good enough. Show the world I matter. That's the year I went and saw Tony Robbins and found out he fed families for the holidays. I spent 20 years with him after that and just following him around the world. But I'm like, what a concept. Do something for someone else. I'm embarrassed to say I had to be 40 to get that memo. And so I called my brother when I got home. I said, hey, let's feed 5 families because I was going to see him in Denver for Thanksgiving. So he called his church, found 5 families that really needed help. And we bought toys for the kids and frozen turkeys, and we just had a lot of fun buying this stuff. The third family changed my life, Justin. So we go up to this house, and there's this woman in there with 5 kids in a 1-bedroom, Hispanic woman. And she comes out, she sees all the stuff on the porch, she starts crying. Her kids come out, 2 of the older ones start crying. I start crying, and I'm hooked. And this is not ego, there's a message in this. In the last 24 years, I've fed over 150,000 children in my area in Sarasota.
Nice.
I've for the holidays, I've done tens of thousands of backpacks filled with school supplies. I'm doing 2,000 here in 2 months in August. I've done thousands and thousands of teddy bears to give local police departments for officers to keep in their vehicles and they encounter a child that's been in a traumatic situation to comfort that child and bridge the gap with the police. And the reason I bring this up is Tony Robbins calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment. Achievement's a science. If you want to learn from Justin and I, we'll give you the blueprint. You just got to go do it, right? That's it. We'll give you the map. You just got to go do it. That's a science. But fulfillment's an art. You got to figure out what juices you. For me, it's kids. Maybe for you, it's the environment or the elderly or animals or whatever it is. Give right now. See, we've been taught in this country to achieve to be happy. But if we're giving back, and it's a play on words, but it's important. If we're giving back, we're happily achieving, okay? And so give back right now. And don't say, you had money, that's why you did it. You want the money? Give back right now, you'll get the money, okay? That's the way God works. So, anyway, I just wanted to leave with that.
That was a great exit of a podcast episode,
Thank you, brother.
my friend.
Thank you.
Guys, it's been an honor for me. Thank you very much coming in here and giving your wisdom, all the real estate stuff and goals and mindset.
Thanks.
Guys, this has been an incredible episode. Make sure you share this with at least 2 of your friends if you got something from our guy here, Rod.
Thanks.
And
get your butt to my link tree and come to my freaking boot camp for $97. Or at the very least, start listening to my podcast. It's free. There's a bunch of free stuff there. rodslinks.com or text the word links to 72345. And feel free to ask me any questions there. I answer every single question.
Love it.
Thanks,
Thank you very much, my friend.
Good to see you, man.
All right, guys, that is the end of this episode. Stay tuned for the next episode where we're going to have another incredible guest. Again, if you got something great from this, share it with at least 2 friends. Peace.